Emily from the Energy Boutique with your energy and ascension forecast for Sunday, April 30th to Saturday, May 6th. So last week we had a quote unquote quiet week. We were attempting to wrap up some life lessons that April's vibration was meant to teach us. And of course, the real only pivotal astro event that we had was the first quarter moon in Leo that we just had on the 27th. It marked the halfway point in this eclipse cycle. And of course, gives us a precipice, a peak of that energy that of course brought a lot of heart activations on, a lot of ascension symptoms in our bodies out to play. And that pivotal peak energy should have shown us where there's a new sense of self, a new passion, a new heartfelt, I'm going to say, want, need, and desire to express ourselves, to assert ourselves. There should have been something shifting where our heart is concerned. Now, we're still very much in eclipse energy. We're still very much in retrograde energy. So things are still very confusing. If you haven't been able to put your finger on this change, on this transformation as of yet, don't fret. There's still plenty of time. And realistically, a lot of the events won't be understood or actualized until June. So there's still a lot of processing going on, but again, many of us trying to use that beautiful, brilliant intellect of ours, which of course is not working because Mercury is retrograde. We are supposed to be leaning into our emotions, to our intuition. We should be acting as the observer right now, taking hints and clues from all different sources of external stimulation and aligning it with our gut reaction to see what is staying, what is going, what is changing, what is shifting, what is kind of coming to a closure, an ending point, in order for us to begin something new in its place. So it is still very much a wackadoodle energy. It will continue to be a wackadoodle energy until essentially the end of May, which brings us into this week. What are we doing this week? Well, we are ushering in May. May is going to bring a totally different vibration, a totally different frequency, a new set of life lessons. And of course, pay attention for that May energy intro that I put out for every changing of the month. And of course, we're going to kind of jump into May with a little bit of a bang because we have Pluto, the great transformer, going retrograde on the 1st. So we're already kind of in that energy. We're feeling the instability, but of course there's so many elements, so many planetary positions that are unstable at the moment. We wouldn't be able to really realize that that is Pluto or any other planet at this point because everything's kind of blurred together. We're in a mixing pot of chaos, and Pluto is definitely going to go retrograde and show us in the next week or so the topics and themes that we're going to be exploring for the next 5 months. Pluto, being the great transformer himself, does take us on a little bit of a journey down the darker path of memory lane, let's say, because of course, reminder, Pluto's whole point is to throw us in the darkness in order for us to see a brand new light, to throw us in the shadow realm of our thoughts, of our emotions, of our memories, and really kind of show us where it is that we can flip that script and make it something more empowering than weak and vulnerable. So we're definitely going to take a deep dive into the psyche, if you will, and really examine where some of these primary root blockages have come from, where the programming and the conditioning is still alive and well, and forcing us to be a little bit more fearful, a little bit more timid, a little bit more uncertain than we actually need to be. So it is going to get very interesting over the next 5 months. Of course, Pluto, a key player in this eclipse season, and will usher us into next eclipse season in the fall. He will kind of be situating himself to come out of that darkness, come out of the underworld, and go direct around the same time that we'll be jumping into eclipse season in the fall. And speaking of eclipse season, we are very much in it. And we will be building towards the full moon, this time lunar eclipse in Scorpio on the 5th. That, I hate to tell you, but most people are really going to be dreading the energy that gets triggered, the memories that get triggered, the topics and themes that get triggered around this particular eclipse. Why? Because it's Scorpio energy. Who rules over Scorpio energy? Pluto. What is Pluto all about? Transformation. How do we do that? We die. How do we do that? We let go parts of ourselves. We let go old programming, old conditioning, old circumstances, and we create a space for a renewal, a resurrection, a rebirth to actually take place. Does it feel good to die? No. Does it feel good to be born? No. Is it exhausting? 100%. Is it emotional? 100%. Is it alchemy? 100%. It's a very magical thing. If you want to kind of understand where transformation at its root is magic, is alchemy, take a look at the caterpillar into butterfly. Okay, that is a magical situation. That caterpillar literally turns itself to goo, a living goo, before it rebuilds itself into a butterfly, and it stays all squished up in that goo as it materializes into something different before it can bust out of that cocoon. And even when it does, it takes a little bit of a minute in order to figure out the new sense of self and figure out that, guess what? This old caterpillar now has a new fresh set of wings. How are we going to use those wings? Well, we're going to be illuminated to that as we move through this eclipse energy. The other thing that we have to look forward to moving into this brand new month is that Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, money, the ruler of Taurus season that we're still very much in, will be moving out of Gemini energy, that mental plane, to dive into the emotional heart space of Cancer, which honestly is going to bring up all the feels, going to make us a little bit weepy, a little bit whiny, a little bit complainy. But of course, boundaries are going to get tested. Our family situation will go through another review, another reorg, if you will. And just remember that there are pros and cons to every single transit, every single shift. But the Venus and Cancer energy does kind of make us a little bit more sentimental, more nostalgic than normal. We're very fixated to our attachments, especially where the past is concerned. And because we have things coming at us in order to destroy and dismantle the old foundations of our lives, does kind of feel like a little bit of attack. But of course, we have to see our boundaries be attacked or realize where it is that we're lacking boundaries altogether in order for us to get down to the nitty-gritty on what it is that we need in our lives in order to feel safe and secure, nurtured, nourished. Now, Venus moving into Cancer energy, going to bring up all the inner child wounds, all the parental relationship dynamics, definitely focusing in on a lot of the, I'm going to say, pain and trauma that we carry in our DNA from the generational trauma that, of course, we are part and parcel of. Now, I don't want it to sound all bad, because it's not meant to be all bad. We are going to realize a lot about ourselves and what it is that we absolutely need in our lives, where it is that we're rebuilding certain foundations, especially where the energy exchange in our home and our family relationships are concerned. But Venus being at kind of the heart and soul of what makes us happy and what brings us pleasure and joy and what we need to do to take care of our physical bodies and what we need to give birth to and create and bring to life in our physical realms in order to kind of lock in that safety and security, you best believe we're going to have some powerful revelations there. So, you know, we're into it for a whole banger of a month in May. And again, I have the intro ready to be kind of dropped. I have the forecasts ready to go. But it is going to be a very, very busy month. It always is. We are at the point in the calendar where we are initiating something new, but yet we're not really sure of what that is. Most of the confusion, again, we're not in a typical Taurus season. We're not building and making steps and progress forward. We're essentially looking back and at the mercy of the wild card energies of the eclipse season that we're currently in. But May, typically the break, the transition from Taurus energy to Gemini energy always kind of accelerates things and really pushes us into a different mental space, a different perspective. And we are definitely going to be exploring and reevaluating what it is that we need to do to kind of clean up the debris, the mess of the past, in order to prepare this clean slate, this fresh new stage for us to kind of build upon. Again, let me be very clear. a lot of what's been going on since the beginning of April will not be fully understood until the end of May. Why is that? Well, because we have to close out eclipse season and we have to get out of Mercury's post-retro shade period. You know, we do have Mercury going direct mid-month, right after our eclipse energy here. We have, in May, we also have a major heavy-hitting planet shifting out of one sign into another, which always marks a different kind of energy. And of course, I'm talking about Jupiter. Jupiter, who is a very beneficial planet to all of us, will be moving out of this Aries energy, will be moving into Taurus energy. This is closing out a 12-year cycle and also opening up the door to a brand new 12-year cycle. So we have a lot of different aspects and energy really pushing for a lot of change, but that change isn't going to be actualized or even realized until the end of May. So with that astrology kind of out of the way, I just want to touch on a couple of things before we jump into the Ascension symptoms of this week. A little bit of homework. And of course, I always start my homework list off with a great big thank you. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for liking, for sharing, for commenting. I want to thank you for jumping over to Patreon and supporting me over there. I will say the very first month, the first month that I was monetized on YouTube was, I believe, August of 2022. I got bad timing, maybe 2021. Anyways, regardless, the very first month that I was monetized and was eligible to receive, you know, a payout for all of the ad content on my channel, I made like close to $200 right out of the gate. And it was increasing, you know, each and every month. And I think I only ever got as high as getting like $450 from YouTube, which I'm not shunning at all. But the reason why I'm telling you this is because, first of all, I believe in 100% transparency. And unless you're a creator on YouTube, you really don't know what you got to go through, the hoops that you got to jump through, the red flags that you got to kind of deal with and swallow and take on the chin when you say a flagged word, if you will. But the reason why I'm saying this is because in the month of April, I have made $115. Okay, so as you know, I put out videos daily, okay? And when you add up all of the time that I spend on the content that you get to view, that is just a fraction of the time that I'm actually putting into making these videos. They do not happen in a quick type of situation. It takes a long time to put these things together. And so I'm looking at like my accumulated hours for the month of April, and I don't know, guys, $100. I don't think that's really good. I don't think that's good at all. I'm taking this very personally. So that's why I appreciate all of you jumping over to Patreon and, you know, being a subscriber over there, because I am just not seeing that this YouTube channel is worth it anymore. Now, before you get your panties in a bunch, I'm not going anywhere because I know I do serve a great purpose on being able to explain the energies and have, you know, the viewer content be able to be seen by those that need to see it, and that, you know, the ones that are here every week and always commenting and sharing and doing all of those lovely things. I appreciate you all so much. My message isn't going anywhere, my content isn't going anywhere, but I really just want you guys to be aware that like content creators are getting ripped off. And as a Canadian, the censorship bill that Mr. F-Face of the country, the communist country that we're currently living in, I hate to even say that word because that's another red flag that I'm going to take on the chin, but whatever, $100, I'll say it. You know, he just passed a censorship bill that's really going to affect Canadians. I'm not sure how this is going to affect me as a Canadian, you know, being kind of putting content out there. Now, granted, Canada is one of my lowest subscribers. The US is my major audience, so thank you very much. And then it's Australia and the United Kingdom. And it's really weird that Canada isn't really even, well, I think it is on my top 5, so I shouldn't say that, but very low on the top 5. So I'm not really sure how Mr. F-Face's little censorship bill is actually going to affect content creators here in Canada, but I don't know that I can take any more hits as far as, this YouTube channel goes. I don't know what the prospects of this YouTube channel is going to be moving forward. But I know that $100 for a month of blood, sweat, and tears, and I mean tears because some days I cry just having to deal with this crap, deal with the videos not being published, deal with the scheduling times not being published when they say it, not sure what's going on here. I would like to blame Mercury retrograde, but I don't even think it's a Mercury retrograde thing. I think it's a YouTube thing. We all know that this platform is falling apart and really going to shit. And you know what? At this point, maybe it deserves to do that in order for new platforms to actually emerge where free speech and the lack of censorship is actually a thing. Because I know that most content creators out here are really suffering. And it's not fun. But that's why I make a point of sitting down multiple times a day, responding to every single comment. If y'all take enough time and energy out to reach out to me, then I'm going to reciprocate that time and energy. I'm so grateful for every single one of you being here. I know it's not your guys' fault that, YouTube is doing me dirty here. But I don't know, $120 for a month of a lot of work, just it doesn't seem right to me. So this is why I push my Patreon. This is why I'm pushing to, download my content from my website, become a subscriber, get it in a nice cozy little gold package deal over on my Patreon, because YouTube is on its way out and I cannot stand to pour my time and energy into this place anymore when it is not being reciprocated in any kind of way. And in no way am I saying that I am not appreciative of you guys being here and, all the love that you give me, all the support. It's the only reason why I continue to do it, because I know that people need the guidance. People need to understand the energies at play. You need to rise into the newest level, the newest version of yourself. And that's the only reason why I continue to put the time and energy into this very, very stupid platform. So with that rant being over the way, Patreon is where the time and energy is being put. And I want to thank everyone for going over to that Patreon. We just had a new astro class there on Wednesdays. If you're interested in astro class, a new episode drops every Wednesday. This week we covered hemispheres and quadrants in your chart and the different personality traits that you can kind of pick out from your chart based off of where the groupings of planets show up in your chart. And I think it's very interesting that a lot of people that are even into astrology, they don't know a whole lot about looking at the chart and identifying the 7 patterns. They don't understand about hemispheres or quadrants, and it's not material that apparently people have stumbled over. So it's kind of interesting to see, where people are at in their understanding of astrology. We are kind of, going back to bare bones, bare basics here in these astro classes, because I feel like there's so much new age spiritual crap out there, especially where astrology is concerned, and not much of it is real, to be honest with you. I watch all of these, I hate to call them out, but there's a lot of fake astrologers out in the world right now. There's a lot of fake tarot readers. I watch some of these TikToks or Insta Reels or whatever, shows up on my platform. And they're talking about astrology and I'm like, what are you even talking about? I have a pretty firm grip on understanding astrology and I have no clue what these people are talking about, because they're not talking about anything that makes sense. They're literally just grabbing words out of other people's content, doing a little bit of a Google search, reading it off the screen, and trying to present themselves as if they are an authority figure of the knowledge and wisdom that they're trying to spit here on these platforms. And it's very, very scary to know that, these content creators, they've made a mission of making whatever content is going to get them likes, is going to get them, that attention, that 15 minutes of fame. But it's all based off of crap. And that's a very scary thing. So that's kind of the main reason why I started the astro class, because I want people to kind of start at the basics and understand that you don't need to know anything about astrology as far as the planets go or the houses or the zodiac wheel. There are just, main principles where you remove all that information and you're just looking at chart patterns. You're just looking at the groupings of planets and all of the different, personality traits and characteristics that you can kind of pluck from just the patterns and behaviors of where the planets are dispersed in your chart. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So, I think we're like we're 8 episodes in. So you can always jump over to Patreon and start your astrology class whenever you feel the need to do so. And I am still very much working on the back-ended operations of my website to be able to offer that membership through my website instead of Patreon as well. So again, Mercury retrograde was not the time for me to be doing this. And I'm curious, how's everybody dealing with Mercury's retrograde thus far? I'll just say I've had, of course, technological issues. I think we could all say that we've had a little bit of techie issues. I don't know if you noticed or not, but my normally scheduled posts have been a little bit off as of late, and I'm blaming Mercury retrograde for that. I do use a scheduler for all of my posts, and none of them got posted over the last week at the times in which they should have. So if you were wondering, where my posts were at, well, I was wondering too. They were stuck in the cloud somewheres. I've had that happen to me. I have had my home security system go on the fritz for literally just one day, and then it corrected itself. I have had wild dreams of people that I haven't thought about in decades. There are just a lot of weird instances that you're just like, obviously it's got to be real. The energy fluctuation has got to be real, because just weird wild card energy things happen. Plans get all messed up. Communications, again, are at an all-time high for misunderstandings. It's just a really wild thing, but I find that because Mercury is retrograde in Taurus energy, there's been a lot of attention to our physical bodies, and a lot of that attention has been brought to our attention due to the Ascension symptoms taking place. But like, a lot of our physical bodies are changing, and a lot of that is due to the energy fluctuation. We're able to hold more space, more energetic light in our physical bodies, which of course has a direct effect on the cellular memory of our physical bodies. But just this Taurus energy has us kind of looking at ourselves in a different way. And I think that it's super interesting because, of course, the eclipses that we're in right now, especially with the full moon lunar eclipse coming up in Scorpio, that is like a true transformation of self. That's why we're seeing ourselves in it from a different set of eyes, from a different perspective. We are literally morphing. We're literally transforming right in front of our eyes. And we are definitely going to feel that full-on transformation once we enter into this full moon window. That, of course, will be taking place at the end of this week. And then just a reminder, guys, like, this kind of comes back to a lot of the crappy content creators out there in this new age spiritual astrology community. Everybody's talking about like, oh, well, the minute that the full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio takes place, like, the eclipse season is over. No, it is not. Okay. The eclipse energy does not get closed down until the new moon in Taurus on May 19th. Okay. So people don't understand that, like, the new moon, any new moon, the new moon, that energy is alive and well, even when the full moon hits, because that's part of that lunar cycle, until the next new moon closes the door on that moon energy, that moon cycle. So, if you're interested in the moon cycle, I just released a whole little, Taurus season lunar cycle rundown on my Patreon if you're interested in staying in alignment with these energies. But like, I've seen so many different TikToks and Instagram reels and just posts about like, oh, we're closing the door on eclipse energy with this full moon in lunar eclipse in Scorpio. And I'm like, that's a little bit of a delusion. The cycle is still alive and well. The new moon solar eclipse in Aries energy that we had 3 hours prior to the sun moving into Taurus season and opening us up to Taurus season, that new moon energy, that eclipse energy is still very active, is still very much impacting us until the next new moon, which is the new moon in Taurus energy on the 19th. So do not be fooled. Okay, we're still very much in this eclipse energy. It is going to be an extremely intense buildup to this full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio for a couple of reasons, mostly because we are at the beginning of the end of this 18-month spiritual life lesson where the true nodes of the moon have been on this Taurus and Scorpio axis since November of 2021. Whatever gets activated in this eclipse season will come full circle to a completion point in the fall of 2023 when we have the last remnants of this Taurus and Scorpio axis being illuminated, because as you know, or you may not know, you should have listened to the 2023 energy forecast that I put out at the beginning of the year, breaking up each and every month in the calendar on what it is that we can expect. July is a major shifting point because the true nodes of the moon move out of that Taurus and Scorpio energy and move into the Aries and Libran energy that we are going to be thrown into spiritual life lessons for the next 18 months. So right now, we just had a taste of the Aries energy. Now we're like really examining the shadow realm parts of ourselves that need to die, that need to end, that need to close the door on under the Scorpio influence that will essentially send out a vibration, a reverberatory effect that will kind of create a domino effect events that need to happen. Things need to fall apart, things need to die, things need to end, and we will see that end result in the fall under that eclipse season, under that eclipse energy when we close the door on the Taurus and Scorpio axis for good. So yeah, be very wary about who it is that you're watching, the information that they're telling you, because again, a lot of these falsies out there are just spitting words, regenerated, regurgitated words that they're picking up from other uneducated content creators just to get you to bang those likes. And I'm not about the likes. Of course, I do, like the likes and like the shares and like the comments, because of course that just bumps the algorithm to put my information and my message in front of the people that need to hear it. But again, I'm not out here just spitting unfactual facts in order to, get the views, to get the likes, to get the audience going. And I find that that's the big problem with the spiritual community now, is they're not in it for truth. They're in it for attention. And that is so ego-based. It goes totally against this whole spiritual movement. So just be very, very cautious about that. So here we are at the end of April. As I mentioned, over this weekend, you will see the energy forecast be published for May, that energy intro. You will also see that the May zodiac forecast become available. And I always take the opportunity as we move into a new month to kind of plug jumping into Patreon, jumping into, really getting in alignment with these energies. One thing that is very clear is that everyone is busy. Everyone is caught up with the ego realm right now. I get it. You can feel that pull back. You can feel that attention being drawn inward. I get it. Everybody's exhausted. Nobody wants to do this anymore. I get it. But we are reaching new levels of consciousness and ascension. This is not the time to curl up in a ball and just disassociate. This is a time to really dig deep, really allow the feelings, the not so nice feelings, to take over your body, because we have to feel it in order to heal it. And of course, this eclipse energy is super disorienting. The retrograde energy is super exhausting. We're in a Earth energy, okay? All of the planets right now are built up in this Taurus energy, this Earth energy, which means that we are going so low and slow that some days we are just not moving at all. And this is another indicator, and again, shameless plug, this is a great time to download your Taurus season e-guide. We still have some major events coming at us. Taurus season is not over. It is essentially just beginning. And we've only gotten a couple of those astro events under our belt. Those e-guides that I've created are meant for you to kind of align with each astro event. There's a section there for you to understand where it's taking place in your chart, the energies that are being activated. There are journal prompts there so that you can capture the state of consciousness that you're in, the activities going on in your external realm. So as we move through Taurus season and we have these astro events come up, you should be going back to your Taurus season e-guide with each event and really capturing the mind space, the emotional space, the physical space, the perspective that you're in, because all of these details are going to be super important to look back upon when we move into essentially eclipse season in the fall and we close out what has been a both 19-year cycle and an 18-month cycle when we're just talking about the eclipse energy. So that's why I really kind of push those topics and themes. You got to be documenting this. You got to be taking a snapshot of who it is that you are, the life events that are taking place around these astro events in order to piece together what it is that it's trying to tell you. We have to be identifying the hints, the clues, the patterns. I have so many people that just reach out to me in eclipse season and retrograde season, especially to book a session. And of course, my appointments, they go pretty quick. So I don't have any appointments left. Usually mid-month, my appointments are gone. Side note, I will be opening my booking calendar to my Patreons over this weekend for them to have early access to snatch up those spots. It will go public next week. I'll make an announcement about that. I got to give my VIPs a chance to kind of scoop up those sessions. But the point that I'm getting at here is everybody comes out of the woodwork in eclipse season and in retrograde season. And let me just tell you, you're not going to find the answers that you're looking for in eclipse season or in retrograde season. People are like, oh, should I do this? Should I leave my relationship? Should I leave my job? Well, guess what? You're in this confusing state of time for you to sit back and watch the patterns and behaviors, the hints and clues that the universe is showing you. Okay. You shouldn't, I know it goes against my business model, but you shouldn't be reaching out for assistance, for guidance, especially in eclipse season, especially in retrograde season. It's up to you to navigate that. This is what I'm trying to teach you, is to get in alignment with the energy so that you trust yourself, you trust your intuition, you trust your gut reactions. And so, I've had a handful of people to say, I'm willing to pay more for a session. I just need your guidance. I just need your assistance. And I'm like, Nope. You pay attention to the hints, to the signs. And after, the midway marker in May, especially towards the end of the May, if you haven't figured it out on your own, then yeah, I will consider booking you in for a session. But my whole goal is not to capitalize on people's confusion. My whole goal is to align you with your own inner powers so that you don't need me or anyone else to guide you through these particular, life lessons and stages of transition. So with that being said, sit back, enjoy the ride, pay attention. That's the best thing that you can do for yourself, is pay attention. If you're already conflicted about something, like, should I stay in this relationship or should I go? The minute that you're even asking, should I go? Well, that's an indicator right there, right? But even more than that, there's indicators, there's dream content, there are hidden details emerging, there are wild card events being thrown at you and will be continuing to be thrown at you up until we close the door on this energy towards the end of May. So if you're in a state of confusion, congratulations, that's exactly where you're supposed to be. If you're in a state where you're recognizing that things are falling apart and you're losing your shit and everything around you, congratulations. That's exactly where it is that you need to be. If you are in a situation where things are falling apart and things are falling away for you and you feel like you're taking a big L right now, well, guess what? It's because you built your life off of a falsehood. When you do the healing work and you reach new vibrations and frequencies, it's going to require more of you. And the life that you created based off of lower vibrations and frequencies are no longer going to be a fit for the projection of your future. So how are we going to get rid of the elements that you've created on low vibrational frequencies and consciousness when you're now over and above the situation that you've created? Well, the universe is going to shake you up and wake you up and strip you of all the things that have been built off of a falsehood that are no longer supporting you in the vibration and frequency that you're currently at. Does it feel good? No. Should it feel good? No. But is it going to lead to something better? Absolutely. Trust yourself. Trust the greater, grander plan. Trust the process. Lean back, put your helmet on, enjoy the ride, throw your arms up in the air, scream like you just don't care. We're on a roller coaster ride, people. This isn't the end all of or be all. This life is a video game. Okay. So just kind of observe the story that you've written for yourself. Take the hints and clues. You're a clever, clever person. Your higher self is a clever, clever entity. It has a lot of humor. Okay, so when something's happening in your life, you should step back and say, now why would I have written this particular opportunity into my life, into my timeline, into my storyline at this particular time? What am I trying to teach myself? What am I trying to deter myself from? What am I trying to push myself into? Because this whole little video game that you are playing here has been designed by your higher self long before you got here. So I know many of us have the want, need, and desire to kick our higher selves' asses. And you know what? There will be a time to do that. But let me just say that your higher self knows more than your ego self ever could here on this earth plane. And you have to learn to trust yourself. You have to learn to trust the process. So that was a little bit of a mini rant that I probably should have held off until we jumped into the Ascension symptoms for, but it plays in, it's all connected, it's all part and parcel. So let's talk about it. First of all, this week we're going to have a lot of root chakra energies. Why is that? Well, because Pluto is on the move. Why does that matter? Well, because Pluto is going retrograde. Why does that matter? Well, because when planets go retrograde, the events, the transformation stop happening outside in the outer world and they start happening in our inner world. It's an internalized energy. Pluto rules over the dark parts, the shadow self, the ego, the avatar, our survival here in this earth realm, which is root chakra activated. So what does this mean? Well, it likely means lower back pain. It likely means some tension in the hips. Maybe your sciatica is, kicking off and kicking up. Maybe you're having a hard time walking. Maybe you're not stable on your legs. Maybe your knees are popping off. Maybe you twisted your ankle. It's all lower extremity, lower situational type of energies, because that is what connects us to the earth, and that's what connects us to our ego avatar, and that's what connects us to the survival that we need to have here on this earth plane. Let me remind you, ego is not bad. It is not something that should be eliminated. Your ego is the only thing keeping you alive here in this human earth school. The goal is to examine the programming, the conditioning of the ego, and breaking free from that script. So when we talk about shadow parts, when we talk about shadow work, when we talk about the ego, it is not bad. It is not something that we need to get rid of. It is not something that we need to eliminate. It is something that we need to gain control over, alchemize, and integrate into our spiritual selves. Again, we are spiritual beings here on a human experience, not the other way around. So stop trying to make the ego and the shadow part of ourselves a bad thing. It is not the enemy. Okay, the minute that you look at your not good thoughts, your not good feelings, the guilt, the shame, the betrayal, everything that is kind of tucked into the underworld that Pluto rules over, the minute that you look at that as the enemy, that's something that needs to be destroyed, something that needs to be separate of yourself, is the minute that you're giving your power away. The goal here on this earth plane is to keep the ego as equally balanced as the spiritual higher self. Is to understand that the conditioning and the programming that your ego self has been conditioned to operate under is something that needs to be mindfully aware of. We have the ability to flip the script. So when we talk about shadow work, we're talking about being aware of the unconscious egoic programming. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that it's a part of you that, again, this very false spiritual new age community has deemed the enemy. It is not the enemy. You need to operate in wholeness. That guilt, that shame, that sadness, that pain, that trauma is the greatest gift that you could ever bestow upon yourself. That is what great teachings are made of. One would say, well, why do we have to have all the pain, all the trauma, all the darkness in order to actually grow? Well, because we are spirit. We come from unconditional love. If we were here to have a good time and to bask in our unconditional love, we wouldn't have come to this earth plane and jumped into these meat suits. We are here to be messy. We are here to experience the polarization and the dualistic nature of light versus dark. Is dark bad? Well, a lot of people would say that it is. But I don't know about you, nighttime is beautiful. That darkness is beautiful. We can only see the moon, we can only see the stars, that light, because of the darkness. I don't know about y'all, but dreams are a beautiful thing. Even the bad ones, they're very cryptic in nature. Dreams come out of darkness. This whole universe was born out of darkness, out of the void. The darkness is a beautiful thing. And especially seeing that the light can only be appreciated when you understand that the darkness exists in order for the light to exist. This is dualistic, polarized nature. This is why we come here. Earth School is pretty much the only planet that has this dualistic and polarized system. We're here to experience the light and the dark. If you want to call it good and bad, that's your own perspective, creating a limiting belief. And what I would really like to see is the acceptance of the dark side, the acceptance of the ego, the acceptance of all the bad thoughts and emotions that you've experienced. The more you try to separate yourselves from that is the way that you give your power away. We don't want to be separate from any part of us. What you have to understand is that when you know better, you can do better. And that when you're looking back, because right now we're in a reflective state, being in a retrograde, when you look back and you feel bad, you're holding guilt and shame for some of the things that you did or the choices that you made, you have to understand that you made the best decisions in those particular circumstances at your particular level of consciousness and awareness at that time. Just because you know better now, you can't shit on yourself for the choices that you made back then. That is not what we're here to do. We're here to love. We're here to accept. And we have to start with the love and acceptance within ourselves. So please, please, please understand that when you hear people talking about the darkness, when you hear people talking about the ego, this is not the enemy. Okay? This is not the enemy. It is a part of us. When you are, okay, let's go back to the caterpillar versus butterfly. Do you think it's light in that cocoon when the caterpillar is turning itself to a state of goo in order to turn into the butterfly? Do you think that's fun? Do you think that feels good? Do you think that light is making that happen? No, you sit in darkness. That's when transformation happens. Darkness. When babies are within the womb, you think it's light in there? No, it's darkness. That's where creation comes from. The universe was built out of darkness. That is the most beautiful thing that you could ever kind of wrap your head around, is that the darkness has its own set of beauty. The nighttime is a beautiful thing. That's why when most people, because let me just say, people that keep their eyes open when they kiss another individual creeps me the F out. Okay, I don't even know what that's about. But I mean, you close your eyes to kiss. You close your eyes at the most beautiful moments. You take it all in. Even when you're standing at, let's say, the sun setting, okay? So there's a lot of light, but you're watching the light dissipate into darkness. That's a beautiful thing. And the minute that you observe something beautiful, what do people naturally do? They close their eyes, they take a breath. It's almost like they're taking a snapshot of what it is that they're looking at. They're taking a snapshot mentally and emotionally, energetically and spiritually. So just as you observe something beautiful in the light, you automatically take your place to create some darkness in order to lock that memory in. And darkness is a beautiful, beautiful ally, an asset to us. And I would really, really encourage you to stop looking at darkness, stop looking at your ego as a bad thing. It's something to embrace. So this whole rant led into the fact that the root chakra, our lower extremities, even our sex organs at this particular point in time, because Pluto rules over those particular creator organs, if you will, those particular physical symptoms are likely going to become a thing when we have Pluto kind of, changing directions. Now, it's not just the root chakra that is getting activated. Our solar plexus, right underneath our rib cage, has been getting activated for quite some time, although this past week was a little bit more intense for me, shall I say, than it has been in any kind of week. And how do we know that? Well, we know because there's this air bubble up underneath our rib that we can't seem to move. We can't seem to get out. People are having heart activations, whether it's in your back between your shoulder blades, whether it feels like somebody's sitting on your chest, having a hard time breathing, having, palpitations in your heart. Those are all heart activations. It's happening around the solar plexus. The solar plexus is right underneath your rib cage. Why are we having solar plexus activations? Well, because we're going through a recalibration or realignment. We're bossing ourselves up. We have new passions, new desire, a new sense of self. We might not be fully in that yet, but we're going through the process, and therefore we're having that particular area of our body be activated. It's not just the root or solar plexus that is coming into our realization here this week. We also have the third eye being activated right in smack dab in the middle of your forehead. And how are you going to know this? Well, likely moving headaches, likely tension behind the eyes. Of course, sinus congestion, head pressure is all indicators of downloads and that third eye opening up to new perspectives, to new levels of information, new levels of vibration and frequency. But many of us are going to have breakouts on the forehead around that third eye. And that is an indicator where the energy is kind of being pressurized in your body. So, pay attention for that. A couple of things that I just want to kind of talk about. Not only are we going to have breakouts on the forehead, but there's a lot of itchiness going on in the forehead, yes, but itchiness just overall. And let me just remind you that itchiness is a sign of healing. It is a sign of healing. So I want you to pay attention to where it is that the itchiness is taking place in your physical body, because that is a true indicator of the emotions that you're healing. We can connect that to the area of the body, the organs that is closest to it, the solar or the chakra that is most related to it, and then the emotions that particular chakra rules over. This is how we piece it together. Everything is hints and clues and evidence. So we're going to be feeling a lot of that itchiness because we've reached that halfway point in the eclipse energy, which is recalibration, realignment. We've reached that halfway point with that first quarter moon in Leo. And now we're starting to heal. Now this is like, everything has a cycle. At the beginning of a cycle, there's usually the fall away, the fall apart. Midway, there is a pivot. There's an understanding, there's an illumination on what it is that we need to kind of move away from, what it is that we need to move closer to. The minute that we reach that halfway point, we move into the healing time. We move into the alignment time. The damage, the destruction is done. Now we're doing the repairing, right? So the healing, the itchiness is a huge sign that we're on the right track. We're moving forward. We are going to still have a lot of pressure in the head. We're not going to get away from the pressure in the head. Now, whether it manifests as a migraine, I know myself, I had a migraine for 3 days this week. Just hate those freaking migraines. Head pressure, headaches, dull aches, neck stiffness, unable to really turn your head all the way from one side to the other. Again, head congestion. It feels like, that energetic headache worm moving around your head, little patches of hair that hurt. The energy is so high in eclipse and retrograde season. We can't get away from these particular headspace issues, especially where Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of that headspace, is retrograde. We're very dizzy. We're very disoriented. We feel drugged. Mercury is essentially drugged right now. He's in his unconscious state. That's why our intellect isn't working very well. That's why we have to rely on our intuition, because Mercury is essentially drugged. And we are essentially drugged. We're seeing things from a different set of eyes. Nothing is making sense. We're dizzy. We're discombobulated. We're disoriented. We don't know left from right, up from down. We're supposed to be in a state of confusion. So please, please, please stop trying to think your way through this and just be in it. Flow with it. The heart and head have been activated, especially over this past week, will continue to be activated as we kind of move through the first little bit of May as well. And to be perfectly honest, we're moving into a vibration of 5 in May, which is the heart space. And of course, Taurus season is a vibration of 2, which is trying to build and create something new in our physical realms that bring a lot of happiness, joy, and pleasure coming from the vibration of 5, which is that heart space. And then when we move into Gemini energy, we're going to be in the vibration of 3, which is the mental plane anyway. So there is a recalibration between the heart and the head that will continue. I know over this past week, we started the week off with the moon in Gemini, which is Mercury ruled. We're ending the week off with Virgo energy, which is Mercury ruled. But we start May off on a Monday, on a moon day, with the moon moving out of Virgo into Libran energy, which is Venus ruled, the heart space ruled, and we're still in Taurus season which is heart-based anyways. So the attempt to get our heart and our head on the same page will likely continue to be a struggle, especially until we close the door on this eclipse season. And of course, Mercury comes out of his drunken stupor and goes direct. But even then, we have 2 weeks of the post-retrograde shadow period where the drugs are essentially wearing off and we're kind of, getting our bearings, and we won't be clear of that until June 1st. So we definitely having a lot going on. And again, I'll go into more detail about all of that in May's energy forecast. So the bubble guts are going to continue to be a thing. I know the solar plexus energy has created this air bubble up underneath our ribs, but things are going to start moving. Okay, let's just say that the stagnancy, the blockages that we've been feeling, the rigidity that we've been feeling in our body, that's going to start moving, and it's going to start moving in a way that is going to create a lot of dysfunction, a lot of discombobulation, a lot of discomfort, dis-ease in our guts. And especially the closer that we get to that full moon, lunar eclipse in Scorpio, you best believe that all of our nerve endings are going to be standing on attention. We're going to be edgy as F. And let me just say that the Scorpio energy is going to bring all the shadow realm elements to the forefront. We are going to have to examine our control issues, our fears, our doubts, our securities, the memory blockages that we have, the dissociative type of behaviors that we have. We are going to have to kind of see where it is that we've been making an enemy out of the darker parts of ourselves, and where it is that we have to turn that into an ally. Again, keep in mind that the Scorpio energy is about shadow work, but it's also the alchemist of the zodiac, which means that we do have the ability to turn that pain into power, that darkness into light, but it is going to be an absolute emotional shit show. So I want you to pay attention for that. Now, we are going to have a little bit of a funk take over in our mouths again. That mouth film, those fuzzy little sweaters coming back on our teeth and our tongue are going to be a thing. Our gums are a little bit sore and sensitive. Even our teeth are a little bit sensitive. A lot of that is due to A, the head pressure, B, the fact that we are, again, realigning, and C, the fact that there's a lot bubbling in us that we want to speak on, that we want to say, that we don't even realize we have to get out of our bodies as of yet. And so there's a lot of fire, a lot of tension really being built up in the mouth. And, that will come and that will go. But I think that we're going to have a lot of attention drawn to the mouth, to the teeth, to the tongue, little, biting your tongue, little mouth bubbles, mouth sores, teeth pain, all this kind of stuff. But the film and the sweaters, that funky little taste that we can't seem to get rid of out of our mouths, definitely coming back for a vengeance here this week. I want you to pay attention. I know we talked about the itchiness of the skin and the body and healing, but I also want you to pay attention to where hive-like little bumpies are kind of erupting on your skin. Yes, we're going to have those eruptions, those breakouts around the third eye, on the forehead, but other areas of our bodies are going to have these little hives, these little bumpy buildups as well. I need you to pay attention to where that's happening. That is almost like so itching is an indicator of healing. Normally, disruptions like breakouts and hives and pimples and stuff like that are indicative of our organs or a particular chakra needing a little bit more attention. It's like, think of what a hive is. A hive is like an allergic reaction to something. Well, spiritually and energetically speaking, there are new details, there's new information, there's new perspectives emerging this week. Hasn't happened yet. So, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, well, hasn't happened yet, I must be clear of it. No, we're not even talking about recognizing them now. This is likely something that is going to fester up, be really in your face about it around the end of the week when we have that lunar eclipse energy, just bring out all of the ugliness, emotionally, mentally, energetically, spiritually, and of course, physically as well. And I want you to pay attention to the topics and themes that emerge that you have a direct resistance towards. And especially when you have hives or breakouts or pimples or something reactive on the skin. Our skin is our largest organ. So by the time we actually get an indicator on our skin that something's going on within us, there's already a problem there. We're already having an allergic reaction to situations and circumstances. But I just want you to be mindful of the hints and clues that you're being presented with and piece those together in order to see the bigger, broader picture. Now, the nighttime is still going to be super interesting with very, very troubling dream content. Again, many of us dreaming about people we haven't thought of in many, many moons, and a lot of that is due to the retrograde, but eclipse energy is very karmic as well. We are shifting timelines and soul contracts as well. So there is this very interesting cryptic storyline that's being presented in our dreamscape because many of us couldn't handle that kind of truth in our waking lives. But the night sweats are likely still going to continue, and they are just disgusting, and they are stinky. My goodness, have y'all noticed that like your overall odor has changed? Like, I'm not saying that we all like smell like trash, but like there's a deep purge going on here. And night sweats are a true indication of the deep purge going on in our organs. But like our sweat, our smell, our whole our whole smell is changing. And that is an indicator of what is changing on the inside as well. Yes, dietary issues are definitely a thing, but we just want to understand that, when we're seeing indications and evidence of our physical bodies changing, whether it be eyesight or smell or touch or, things happening to our skin or overall visual, that's an indication of the energetic change that's happening as well. So we just kind of want to understand that it's all happening, it's all connective, it's all relative to one another. The last thing that I want to talk about is our detox systems, because we're going through a big detox here. That night sweat, that change in smell, and the physical symptoms that we're kind of experiencing are all part and parcel of that. But I want you to take a focus on the things coming out of you to be as polite as possible. I don't want to talk about the south end of the things that we get rid of out of our bodies. But again, that is changing as well. So pay attention. The one thing that I want you to really pay attention for is the oiliness of your skin changing and the earwax that is changing in your ears. It's almost liquefied. And the reason for that is because we're running a different body temperature than normal. When we go through a detox, when we go through a rebirth, a recalibration, a realignment, there's always temperature fluctuations. Now, of course, we can feel that on our skin. We can also feel it, like our blood boil. We can also feel like a surge of energy in our physical bodies, but we can also tell the temperature fluctuation and changes due to our excretions, basically. And so the earwax is a thing. Our ears are itchy. We can't scratch that itch. And the earwax is more liquefied, I'm going to say, than solid. And all of that is an inner change in temperature that, it's almost like burn off. When you have a virus, that's why you get a fever. And many of us right now have a low-grade fever with some of these ascension symptoms. That's just a natural sign and symptom of ascension, of transformation, of resurrection. But when you get a virus, your immune system gives you that fever in order to kind of burn through it. And as we've been talking about, fire energy burns through the old in order to clean the slate, sterilize the space in order for something new to be initiated and brought to life in that place. And so just realize that eclipse energy, transformation, recalibration, realignment means that your body, your physical body, is going to go through some major changes as well. So guys, I think that's all that I have to chat about here this week. I want to thank you so much for the love, for the support, for you spending your time, your energy here with me, not only live in the chat, but continuing to kind of comment on this video throughout the week. Again, really helping to push that algorithm back into a state where my messages get in front of the people that need to know it the most. There is a new level of awakening, a new level of consciousness actually being attained, and therefore it's always good for a little validation, a little bit of a reminder that you're not cray-cray and you're not alone. And that's what we serve to do here in this community that we've built, is just to remind each other that we're all on the crazy train together, that we are crazy in our own way, but not really that cray-cray, because the things that we're experiencing are very, very real. And we just want to continue to be that support, not only for each other, but for the newbies that absolutely have nowheres to go, that have no knowledge or information about some of the things that we've been experiencing for many moons now. We want to provide a safe community for us to drop a line in the comments, say what's going on in our bodies, say what's going on in our minds, and having other people, not just me, but other people validate that your experiences are yes, very real, but also experiences that they are having as well. We do not want to feel alone. We do not want to feel isolated. That is the agenda of this particular, I'm going to say, construct of the matrix here, is to isolate us, have us divided, have us isolated and alone and individualized to the point where we feel like there's something wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with you. You are perfect exactly as you are, exactly where it is, and you're exactly where it is that you need to be. And I thank you so much for being here with me as we all go through it. So I hope you have a beautiful week. I'm sending you so much love, and we'll talk to you soon.